What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Soul Hoops podcast. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm, as always, joined by Matthias and Ryan here. We are back for another episode. We're going to be talking All-Star Weekend and some post-All-Star basketball, getting ready for the last, big gruesome stretch of the NBA season. But before we get into any basketball, Ryan, Matthias, how are we doing today?
We're doing all right today. I was saying before we started recording, but I had a long day at the Mall of America, which is really not that fun, especially when you live in Minnesota and it's not like an event to go there. It's just kind of a normal thing. I was stuck there for a while, and part of that trip included me getting stuck in a dressing room, like a fitting room. I did get stuck, and I had to call the store from the fitting room from my phone, and had to wait like 10 minutes for them to come and unlock the door. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that, but I don't know. Today's been today.
Thanks. Matthias, how are you doing today?
I missed that story. I'm doing good. I had today off. I've basically just been grinding 2K all day. So it's been fun. Yeah.
I have not had I had the urge to boot up 2K, and then I logged in, and then I said, let's not do this, actually. I logged back out.
Yeah, the only way I enjoy the game now is like I have to play it like as much as real basketball as possible. Trying to play arcade is just too much. Yeah. I can't play Bark or anything.
Like I just like playing as Giannis and just smashing the rim in online. It's the most fun type of basketball to play. Real hoops, just body.
I was playing a lot of Rec earlier in the year. Like the first month the game came out, I was playing every day. Like Jeff, you were there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was playing every single day, and then
so was I.
And then I just
we gotta hop on.
I just stopped.
We
should.
We
gotta hop on.
We should.
I got a Mikal Bridges type forward.
What's your position?
It's a small. I'm a small forward.
Okay,
like
mine's
a scoring defender.
Okay.
I have like a combo. I have an Anthony Simmons combo guard type thing.
Perfect.
He's like a slashing.
I mean, that's a good trio. There you go.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Fortnite. That's what I've been doing every time. It's a lot of fun. I like playing Fortnite Festival too. Playing Knockoff Rock Band. It's a little entertaining. It gets me a little angry when I mess up a lot. But it's a little fun. I am about to buy Helldivers 2, which I don't know if you guys have seen that game at all, but I gotta.
Yeah, my
it looks fun. It looks fun. But let's get into some basketball then. Let's start with All-Star Weekend. Just wrapped up yesterday with the game going on, the East versus West. You guys want to start at the beginning of the weekend? You guys want to start with the game? Just want to talk about the weekend as a whole.
I'm fine. I'm fine with working either way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to start just by talking about the weekend as a whole, I was pretty underwhelmed by the whole All-Star Weekend. I know everyone's saying it, and a lot of people are very cynical about All-Star Weekend and saying that it's not fun anymore. It's a joke. They've ruined it. It's a waste of time. And I wouldn't go that far. Like, I still think that All-Star Weekend is a good time. And, I'd love to be able to go one day to All-Star Weekend and be there. But I also would be lying if I said that, for the last 2 years especially, and then maybe some of the years before that, I felt like All-Star Weekend has been a bit bland. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But I guess I just wanted to start off by saying I was pretty underwhelmed by the majority of the festivities and media and everything that happened.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed by a lot, but also I think that I was more underwhelmed by the broadcast crew and how it was covered. But in terms of how the NBA set up the media, how they set up the games, how they set up the events, whatever, I really enjoyed it. I don't think it was on the issues. They didn't really lie on the NBA outside of, I think, changes they can make to the dunk contest and maybe like small changes to the skills challenge. But overall, I really enjoyed all the events. I really only got annoyed with the broadcast for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I will be admittedly, I did not watch the skills competition because once I heard that Ant was just
It
going
was
to be trolling the
hilarious.
entire time, I was like, yeah, this is a wrap. like,
Yeah.
like they're just trolling. Not really entertained. I saw like the clips of it, like, and honestly, like, I find it more enjoyable when I just acknowledge that the players just do not care. Like, Scotty Barnes is just like picking the ball up and like throwing it over his head backwards from half court to like take a
Well,
shot.
okay. Yeah, but that was
like
hilarious. Like
that
it's
was
like hilarious. Like it's fun seeing them like joke around, in my opinion. Like it's
yeah.
they spent a minute trying to make a half court shot, and then finally he
Yeah.
just gave up and started throwing them backwards. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like at least he didn't do it the whole time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're
was-
like it's like but like I would agree with some of your sentiments though, Ryan, about how it is a little underwhelming as a whole. I mean, it does not have the awe factor that I think All-Star Weekend used to have.
The aura.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid using that word, but
Okay. I'll say
I think yeah, it's all right. I think it's just
I'll
it's
say
hard. It's like it's like a forbidden word or term. But I think that it can be overall like a fun time to watch if you're just watching it from the perspective of what it's catered to, and that is casual fans who don't care. Like if you watch it from that perspective, I think it's a lot more enjoyable to watch as a whole. And like I just know that the game is not going to be fun as a game. And that's why it's only fun when like Dame is taking half court pull up threes and like, you know, Curry's shooting from out there and Tyrese is just shooting faders and, you know, and Luka's showing how unathletic he is and he's trying to dunk and he can't.
Yeah.
can't
I saw
can't
some
do
people
it.
mad at that, like mad at Luka for doing that. I'm like, that's what it's for. Like, yeah, he got rim checked, but like that's the All-Star game.
Yeah.
The
And I
full
think
court shot though was a little like
yeah, that was wild. And Luka on Twitter at halftime, did you see that? He like responded to a
2 for 1.
fan that was like, it was 2-for-1 at analytics. But like I think it's all right. I obviously had fun, like, because like Dame was like had a great weekend. So like obviously as a Bucks fan,
Yeah.
that was fun to watch. Like he was stressing me out during that 3-point contest. He was trolling. I know he was trolling on purpose. There's no way he wasn't. But like I think it overall has lost a lot of the awe factor, the aura to it of like all these huge stars. And I think that's also because we're going through a passing of the torch period right now in the NBA, where there's a lot of newer players and teams that are coming up where it doesn't have that same awe factor to a lot of people because we're not as ingrained to think of a lot of these players as superstars or all-star level players, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just think like
they were interviewing LeBron about changing the face of the league, like like
which they ask him like
he's gonna retire.
5 times a year. They ask him that question like 5 times a year, dude. Like it's literally like the question they asked. They ask him, Steph, and KD that like at every single media availability at the beginning, All-Star, and in the playoffs. It's like, dude, we get it. You think Ant is cool and you think Shea is cool. There's not really much to talk about. So it's just dumb.
I don't know. I thought the skills challenge or skills competition just kind of set a weird tone for the rest of the weekend in the sense that like
your franchise player's fault.
It is. Like it's
that troll.
I do think it's part hilarious that Ant decides to not care about it at all and shoot with his left hand. But also like
because the announcers got really mad about it. That made it even better.
But also like it is the skills challenge and we're here to see the players and their skills.
Wemby was so pissed, bro.
Like
Wemby was so pissed.
I want to see the players try. I want to see the players actually use their skill and actually try to win these, even if they don't actually care about winning the skills challenge. At least pretend to care, because Scotty Barnes didn't even pretend to care. Anthony Edwards, Paulo Banchero, they didn't even pretend.
I mean, Scotty, you see him on those passing drills. He was hustling, dude. He was hustling so hard he fell over.
Dude, that was so funny.
I think the part is you got to remember they're probably all like messed up a little bit too. Like it's the All-Star weekend, you know, like they're running around like drunk, like trying to throw the ball.
Like they're playing on that like LCD glass court. like 3
like
people
some of them had the Pacers team had strategy. Like, shout out the Pacers team. They
Yeah,
had a
those
strategy for
those
each
stupid
game.
those stupid
They were
tryhards.
efficient. And then I think the first round picks were terrible. In the skills challenge, I think they were the worst part of the skills challenge.
Yeah.
But I thought the All-Stars were fine, and the Pacers were great. They took it seriously, and they had a plan for everything. Like, but God, watching Paulo and Anthony Edwards and all of them, that shooting competition was bad. Oh,
it was bad. Yeah. And then
it was entertaining at the same time for me.
Yeah, it was. I think it was half entertaining, half
funny,
bit disappointing from my ends. And then after that, we had the 3-point contest, which I really have no complaints about. Like, I think the 3-point contest has become the most entertaining part of the Saturday events, especially because
go ahead. Oh, I just want to add one thing to the 3-point contest. I just think they should add another bomb to it at this point. I think they should add another
like a half quarter.
Yeah, like a pull up. Like after you finish your rack,
like it's like an optional one.
Yeah,
like,
well, not optional.
Or like if you want to risk it for like 4 points, you could like.
It's just like a pull up logo after your last rack. Grab a ball, pull up, because that's everyone takes that shot now.
Yeah, that's true. Or you can make like a gamble. You could be like, you could take this for 4 points, but if you miss, you lose a point.
Add strategy to it and stuff. Sorry to cut you off, Ryan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I just want to say that the 3-point contest has become the most entertaining part of the Saturday
Cat was
event.
cheating too. His
he was
foot was over the line.
Bro,
the famous part too.
The Timberwolves are ruining All-Star break.
They cut to the ref, and the ref is looking at him and going step back, and he's not calling him as regulation shots. He puts his hand down, and then he keeps doing it, so he just puts his hand right back up. I was like, dude, what? Everyone's like, what even is the point of the referee being there if they're not going to call it? So funny.
And Reggie Miller is on the broadcast, like losing his mind about it. He's losing his mind. He's like, "Oh, shouldn't count. He should be disqualified. They shouldn't count." It's
they
like,
should have.
Just relax. Just relax.
He's like me on Twitter when I see like.
They shouldn't have. It should have been
like me watching Halliburton try to stat pad at the beginning of the All-Star game. I was like, oh, if I was on so. All-Star game stat padding is sick. Your Cat was doing that too. He was just cherry picking down there. That
nobody else cared.
I know the West just gave up.
Nobody gave a fuck on the West. There was a point in like the late third, early fourth where the West got it down to like a 10-point game, and I was like, okay, I think they're gonna start going for it now. Nobody did. Everybody like they didn't go for it. It was weird. But back to the 3-point contest, I think it's also cool that actual good players like do the 3-point contest.
That's just something they actually care about, is their 3-point shooting reputation.
Well,
yeah.
And like the best stars in the league are usually 3-point shooters now. Like that's just how the eras have changed. The stars used to be dunkers. They used to be flashy dunkers. Now it's guys that can pull up from 40.
Yeah. And it was impressive this year because I felt like nobody had a bad score. Like in years past, we have a few guys that will get in the single digits. You know, this was like a really.
Beasley had the lowest with what, 20?
Yeah, which is some
Beasley,
years enough to
poor
make
Beasley.
It
his shot form is just not made for 3-point contests. He gets too much. He gets way too high off the ground, so it takes him to
beautiful shot form. But
it's great for in game. He shoots over everybody.
Yeah. Cat's is like the ideal shot form because there's no lift in his shot at all, and it's like a quick.
And he just like pushes it.
Yeah,
he's like he doesn't bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Just a quick one motion.
Dame does sort of the same thing. Dame doesn't cock it back. I think that's honestly why like Steph. Obviously Steph's great, but like Steph will get a little bit closer on that time because Steph brings his ball super high up to his head when he shoots.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I think it was fine. I think I wasn't really like, oh my God, like the dunk contest is starting. Like I have to watch it right now. Like I think it was okay to have as a background thing. And I think the environment was pretty good. I just think that, like we were talking about earlier, the journalism and people covering and this again, we've talked about this before. The NBA media is just so bad. It's in such a bad place overall, especially the mainstream people, because the NBA has put such a focus, and Reggie Miller talked about this on the broadcast. They're like, the NBA does a really good job of bringing back legends to cover the game and get them involved. Guess what? The legends don't care. Like, genuinely, like, there's so many legends who are just don't care. Like, I think Shaq, when he first started, was like this. He was so spiteful towards all these like new age big men that he was covering that it just was like it ruined it. Now Shaq has taken a lot of steps forward maturity wise on TV. Same thing with all those TNT guys, except for Kenny the Jets.
No, we need to talk about Kenny.
That was like the most misogynistic like episode I've ever seen on live TV, like in a while. Like that was really bad from a journalistic standpoint, especially because they were they were not doing that for fun. Like they were, but there was a point to them, Sabrina coming to All-Star Weekend and shooting against Steph.
Yes,
like
the whole
Steph beat her by 2 shots. Like that was supposed to show like I can shoot it from out here too. Like just because I use a different ball, like doesn't mean I can't shoot it from out here. Just because I shoot from closer in the WNBA doesn't mean I can't shoot it from out here.
Well, the whole challenge originated because Steph had like a record for the 3-point contest that seemed like untouchable. Like he only missed like 1 shot or something like that, or 2 shots, and she beat it. I think he only missed like 2 shots, and she either missed 1 or didn't miss 1 at all. So then the whole thing was like, oh, we can do like basically the record holders that aren't really touchable. Like no one's come close to it. Let's do a 3-point contest. Like men's, women's, it was a great event. And then Kenny Smith had to come in and ruin it after she would have been to the finals. She would have tied the winner if she went into the regular 3-point contest. She honestly, if she was given like a second round, she probably could have walked away with the actual 3-point contest. So it's like, it was so unwarranted.
She made the greatest shooter ever like really work to win that contest. You know, Steph wasn't allowed to just kind of coast and try a bit, but not really care. Like, no, Sabrina came out firing like right away. I think she made her first 10 straight shots. It's like, she made Steph really, really work for that. For that win. And the broadcast really, really, really did put a damper on all of it.
I do want to give flowers to Reggie Miller because he did immediately push back and he called Kenny out on national television, which not a lot of people would do. But overall, though, I would agree the broadcast was just negative throughout the whole weekend.
Yeah, it was dumb, and it was the same thing on Sunday night too, and it continued into the dunk contest also. Like,
I think the innate bias that the NBA media operates with is so much worse than any other sports media. Like Reggie Miller, like, dude, we get it. You played in Indiana, like, just like move on, okay? Like, he's like crying on the broadcast because Tyrese isn't going to get the All-Star Game MVP, and like he's like literally like saying that Milwaukee is a shithole because they put a bid. He's like Milwaukee. This will make this place look like the French Riviera if we had to go to Milwaukee. It's like, dude, this is Indianapolis, Indiana. Like, I know I hate the Indianapolis, but like this is Indianapolis, Indiana we're talking about, and you're like, man, Milwaukee, who the hell wants to be there? Like, it's like the same thing that was happening like in 2021 with the finals. Like, I tweeted out, like, I just don't understand what everyone's problem is with the city of Milwaukee. Like, why is that just like the target of like, dude?
It'd be the same thing if it was at like the Kings, the Blazers. Like,
no, wouldn't it be because they'd be close enough to San Francisco and LA that they wouldn't whine about it.
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe with the Kings, but people would shit on Portland so hard. We're not even, I guess, in a place to do the finals. It's just a small markets in the NBA, like you said, the bias it extends to the small markets, like in a bigger general thing.
Well, it's always
there was Indiana. I'm pretty sure there was Indiana writers saying like the weather's bad, we shouldn't have an All-Star game here, and I was like,
I think that was satire. Are you talking about that female reporter?
She was at Utah.
She put out a thing that was like, this is a joke. Like, people.
Okay,
but
I'm
like
glad.
she was like, yeah, but this proves my point that people take this like serious. And I think this is also a thing that's interesting about like the market size and the media bias in the NBA. It's like when you look at other domestic sports leagues in the United States, which is the MLB, the NFL, and the NHL, which I don't follow the NHL close enough to really speak on it, but in the MLB and in the NFL, they embrace small markets who build up to be great teams. They love that Buffalo, New York is, built a great team and has a great quarterback. Like, like Kansas City is not a big market, but they're a great franchise that has the GOAT on them right now. Like, they love that type of stuff.
And they market the hell out of them.
Yeah, and they market the hell out of them. And it's just like, and you see it so much in the writing and the NBA polls and all of this stuff. And it's just like, why is like just like nobody cares about a lot of this stuff as a fan, especially as all three of us are fans of small market teams. None of us are a fan of an LA, a New York, a Chicago, a Miami isn't even that big of a market. It's just a nice place where people like to live. But it's like we all have had to deal with that with our franchise players, and like Ryan's team had to do that. Like the Timberwolves literally were like almost forced, like by like obviously there was a lot of team building issues and issues with the front office and ownership, but like the media was like, oh, KG is like, he needs to leave if he wants to get it done and blah, blah, blah. And like the front office doesn't care. And then that pushed him to push back against the team. And then he went to Boston and the same thing with Dame for so long. And Dame stuck it through as long as I think as long as he possibly could. I genuinely think.
There was a natural leaving point.
And I do think it's one thing with a KG where it's pretty clear the front office is dysfunctional and it's an organization that doesn't they aren't committed to winning. But like you can't say that with the current Timberwolves front office. Like
exactly.
They've done such a good job at building around Anthony Edwards, and especially compared to you look at other stars around the league and how they've built around their young guys like LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball would kill for the supporting cast that Ant has right now.
Oh,
even one or two of them. Give him just Jaden McDaniels and he might be like ecstatic. And that's like that's probably like the fifth best player on the team.
Yeah. It's just
that is a problem in the NBA. They don't differentiate like ownership eras. It's just like, oh, the Timberwolves sucked in 2002, so they suck now.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, and it's like some people are like telling me like, oh, the Blazers aren't gonna build around Scoot and Shaedon because Neil Olshey didn't build around Dame. I'm like, well, Neil Olshey's not working for the franchise anymore, so I don't know what your point is.
Joe Cronin has a completely different mindset on how he treats the franchise.
Like we have a whole new like staff like almost through and through since then. So it's like, and that's with a lot of teams.
Well, and that's the same thing that happened with the Bucks.
Is the name and the colors. That's it.
Yeah, same thing happened with the Bucks when Horst and the Edens, like I love Herb Cole. He's like a Wisconsin legend. Like he saved the Bucks from getting relocated to Seattle or back to LA or wherever. But like when the new ownership group took over and they were willing to spend money and they hired John Horst, who does not care about hurting people's feelings and stuff, it's a completely different mindset than what before. And those things change and they evolve, and people acknowledge that so much more in other sports, like I think baseball is a little bit different because it's pretty much on the owners to build the team because they just have to put up the payroll. And if they put up the payroll, then it'll happen. And if they don't, then it becomes more on coaching and development. But I just think that the NBA media is in so much of a worse place because of all these biases that get pushed into media's face. I mean, like the Cavs are 20-2 and over the last 2 months. And like there's Donovan Mitchell to LA rumors coming out of like Woj and Shams, and on national TV, they're talking about whether or not Darius Garland should get traded to the Magic and like, or like some other team. It's like, why? Like, why aren't we just
It's bullshit.
valuing the basketball that's being played and the agendas that are happening and the sport that's being put out in front of us, because it's these eras come and go so fast. Like,
yeah, we can even take that back to the dunk contest. It's just like appreciate what's in front of you. The announcers for the dunk contest were shitting on the dunk before it even happened half the time, it felt like. Like, it's like, oh, why? Like, Kenny was saying something about why is all this Mexican stuff out here, right? Didn't he say that?
Yes.
I was like, and it's like,
I didn't watch that part. That's wild.
I was like, it's like, dude. And it's like, I know, like, the dunk intros, like, they weren't great. Like, there wasn't a lot of crowd service. No one really got the crowd hype. But it's also the announcer's job to make the viewing experience fun for people watching on TV.
Yes, and that's one thing I was going to say about even the All-Star game. I think a lot of the environment stuff that plays into an NBA game, because it's in an arena, is crowd, as well as the arena environment of if they have someone doing vocals in the arena, calling out names when they make a shot, or sound effects when stuff happens, that all adds into the environment of an NBA game. And I'm watching the All-Star game. It's dead silent. There's no audio cues when like a big shot, like when someone hits a three or anything like that. And it's just like,
do they do much court work? Like, did they put like on fire for anybody or anything like that? Like, because they have like the trackable court. They didn't do any animation.
I think they switched the court out. I think they only used that for the.
Yeah, they didn't do any of it for the actual game.
Yeah, but like, I just think it's just, and I think this is more of an overall problem, and with stuff outside of the NBA as well. But there's just a lot of instances where you're watching these entertainment products and it's more focused on what's happening before and after than what's actually happening and in between, like the halftime, performance or whatever. It's like there's so much more focused on that than what's going on during it, and it kind of takes away from the actual, environment and actually thing being happening. I mean, same thing with the 3-point contest. I mean, it's just like, we get it. It's sponsored by Starry. Like, their logo's on the ball. We get it. Like, we understand that. And it's like, too, like when they're announcing All-Stars, it's like, yeah, let's get every single sponsor that does a sponsored award. Let's say their entire award name. Like, it's like Jokic is the 2-time Kia Finals MVP or 2-time Kia MVP, and he's a 1-time whatever Bill Russell. Like, I'm like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to listen to. It's hard to engage with. But I think really what it gets down to is if you just kind of observe it as a casual perspective. Like, I was working on homework, just doing other stuff, had it on my phone, had it on the TV, take a look at it when a dunk's about to happen, or if you hear the announcers go crazy, look down at it and check that Dame just hit a half court. Like, it's more chill,
Yeah, it's definitely more casual, just like enjoy the players, have fun. But I do think that at some points during the game, it was really just like, meh.
Well, especially when it got to the point where
they
got bored. Like what Ryan said, like the last quarter and a half of the West. I mean, they just got bored. They were just throwing the ball up court to the dude standing there and just shooting a layup. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And
it's engaging it's engaging when they're doing like dribble pull-up threes from like 40 feet out. Like, that's cool.
Yeah.
But like, oh,
it's
wow.
Like, no wonder Cat got 50 because nobody else cared and wanted to take any shots. So someone had to do it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. We don't.
And all that talk about the West All-Star team, and then they got shafted.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, these guys are so good.
We don't need to dwell on the All-Star for too much longer.
Yeah.
But I think, changes need to be made. What those changes are, I don't know. I mean, Adam
Do you guys have any thoughts? Let's go around. Give like a couple thoughts.
I just don't. I think for the skills competition, I think, like, if you're going event by event, the skills competition, I think it's just kind of comes down to if the people participating really care or not. And some teams do and some teams don't. And that's just kind of what it comes down to. I don't really think you can incentivize it too much. And then on top of that, it's like, for like 3-point contests, it's like they care. And then like that's kind of like a title that they like to have. And for the actual game, I think Ant put it perfectly. He's like, this is used as a fun event where you get together with some of the best players, but at the end of the day, it's an entertainment thing. It's not a competition thing for the actual All-Star game. Which like it's just true. I just don't think there's really much you can change to really make it more enjoyable.
That's the hard thing is like we all know that there are problems with it, but what can you even change at this point? Because like Anthony Edwards isn't wrong, right? Like a lot of these all-stars are on playoff teams anyway. These guys are trying to gear up for a playoff run. And post All-Star break for a lot of these teams is the most important stretch of the whole season.
They were talking about that on the broadcast.
Yeah.
They literally said these players have like a lot on the line for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
I just think a regular setup for a game like is just too long and people get bored. Like I like the elimination setup, in my opinion, the target score. I think it's a way to keep it precise and keep the players engaged, and the fear of losing is a lot closer. So it makes them feel like, oh, I can't get blown out right now. Because it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I guess like skills challenge, like overall, it's just like you can't pay them more because every year they've tried to increase the money.
The skills challenge is just funny. Like that's because what it comes down to. It's just, like,
but that I feel like all their events and games need to be like targeted at that, and it's like,
yeah, it needs to be advertised as a fun thing. Like I'll give an example. The NFL, they completely revamped their Pro Bowl weekend. Everything they don't even put in pads anymore. They have a flag football game, but everything surrounding that, like nobody really cares about the Pro Bowl because it's like pretty boring. Like it's stupid. Like, but like they make it out like it's not serious. Like this is for fun. Like, and I think like there's a lot of things that like, especially this gets back to like the people announcing and the advertising to it. It's like they try to push it off like this is some competitive product where everyone's like locked in. It's just not true. It's just not like that.
No. And I think, sorry, one more thing before we move on from this. I also something I was thinking about was the Rising Star setup. I liked where it's 4 teams, right? And like it's kind of like a tournament. That is a way, because I know a lot of people have wanted them to extend the All-Star list to like add more players to the game. I think that is a good setup to, one, add more players to teams, and then also try to make it a little more like daunting to lose. Like if you get last place, like it's kind of like, damn, like everyone, like G League beat Vic's team, and everyone was like, oh, big upset, and everyone like, it made it interesting, even though no one really cares about the Rising Stars game. Like it made it a little bit fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, other than that, you can't, because they've tried to increase the money for the events, right? Like the checks and how much is being donated, and it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's the thing that I always do push back on when it comes to the how can you make the players care. The answer can't just be give them more money. Like it just can't be. These guys make a ton of money already, and their incentive already is money for charity, right? And I just think it would be,
and they're also already getting bonuses like in the actual All-Star game. At least an All-Star appearance for Tyrese Maxey allows his contract to go up about $40 million. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it goes up from like 200 to 240 million, and if he makes an All-NBA team, it goes up even more. Like that is their bonus. That is their negotiating. Like that is going to help him. Like, and it's different than like the in-season tournament, because that has players who are not making max money or going to make max money in it and participating in it. Like, that's a very different thing. So,
yeah.
All right, I think we can move on from All-Star.
Agreed.
I think that was a pretty good conversation about it, though. I think. So for the next piece, for the segment, we're going to be doing a top 5 teams that are most likely to be, that you should be taking a look at, or most intriguing teams over the next 2 months from post All-Star break to playoffs starting. We all came up with a list. Do you guys want to go? Who wants to go first? Ryan, you want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I think we'll probably have some overlap with some teams. So if I
have a couple extra ones, so I have a couple extra ones. So if
Same.
if there's some stuff that we want to talk about, if we don't want to overlap a ton,
yeah.
Yep.
So I didn't put the teams in any order, but the first team I have on my list is the Golden State Warriors.
I also have them on my list.
Same.
Yeah. I just think this team is fascinating because in their last 10 games, they are 8-2. They are in the 10th seed. The Lakers are 9th, and they do have a bit of a cushion.
Oh, they're only
them. So
they're 2.5 games up on the Jazz right now.
Yeah. I think the Warriors will stay in 10. I don't think they'll move up. I don't think they'll move down. I think 10 is where they're going to be. And I just think this team is super, super interesting because you've got the Klay Thompson stuff going on. He got moved to the bench. He did really, really well off the bench in that game against Utah. They did almost lose, but he played very, very well in that game. Draymond Green being back and playing center full time has really, really helped their defense out. The Warriors have been a super great defensive team lately. Steph has been hitting like 9-10 threes every single game, it feels like.
Yeah, he's like the first player to hit like 7 threes back-to-back games or something like that.
Yeah, he's been great. Kuminga has been really good lately. Podziemski's been really, really good lately. I think there are just a lot of
Wisco Hooper.
Yep,
we're taking over.
I think there are just a lot of good things going on with the Warriors team right now. In what's been a pretty disastrous season for them so far, just given, the team's age, whatever's happened with Wiggins, the Draymond stuff, the passing of one of their assistant coaches, Chris Paul just kind of being a zero impact for them. It feels like Kevon Looney.
That Chris Paul thing was just dumb.
Kuminga and Steve Kerr stuff, Klay being benched. It's just been a weird season, and they've been playing really well lately, which is why I think they're such an interesting team, because I don't want to say they have a puncher's chance in a playoff series, but
they do.
Well, yeah, you have Steph Curry on your team, you have a puncher's chance.
They've got Steph Curry. They have Draymond Green, who when he's on the court is still capable of being super impactful on that defensive end.
Yeah.
The young guy.
I know Warriors fans hate him, but Steve Kerr is a great coach. He's he's really reliable in the playoffs. So I don't know.
I need them to lose. I like going in Warrior spaces when they lose.
The Warrior spaces are the best things ever. I'll say that. The young guys are stepping up. Podziemski, Kuminga look like they can play in the playoffs, which they need.
Yeah, they absolutely need it.
Moody not being a guy, that hurts my soul.
Yeah,
so high on him.
Yep. The big thing why I had them on my list is that they're one of the few teams that kind of did nothing.
Yeah,
and it's
didn't do anything.
Yeah, many thought they weren't in the position to do nothing. Many expected like a Wiggins or a Klay move or something.
Yeah,
and
they were close to moving Wiggins from what I've seen, and apparently the Bucks and them were pretty close.
I've heard the same. Yeah.
And it's just like they decided to stick the course, and they struggled early in the first half of the season. So it's like I'd like to kind of compare or like look at teams that kind of stuck the course, and then teams that made a trade and kind of see like did it work out or not. And that's kind of why I had them on my list. I don't really see them turning around. Like I kind of see them staying as the 10 seed, but I do agree, puncher's chance, but they just don't have enough talent on the roster. Even how it could be super organized, they just don't have enough talent on the roster. And then I'm just kind of praying for their pick, so I need them to stay there.
Yeah,
I mean, if they win some more games, that puts their odds up that you would get their pick, wouldn't it be? they stay at the 10 seed? Wouldn't that guarantee?
Yeah,
because they can't drop.
I mean, yeah, I
If
want
they
them
stay
to
the 10
stay.
seed, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to jump higher than 10.
Yeah, but then we get. Well, yeah, but right now they're the 13th overall odds because the East sucks so bad.
Yeah, dude. What do you mean, bro? You don't think the Chicago Bulls sitting at the 9 seed are a good team?
No. Well, they're not gonna win. They're not gonna win more games than the Warriors. So it's like,
no, yeah, definitely not. Well, the Warriors are already up a game on them.
Yeah.
And Chicago sucks. Their Linsanity shooting will only get them so far.
All right.
Yeah, I also had them on my list for the same reasons. I think it's just intriguing to watch what's going to happen if Steph keeps up this level of play from the last week or two before All-Star break. I think they'll win a lot of games. And that bottom of the West, we saw last year post All-Star. It could shift very, very quickly. And there's a team that's I have a team, another team that's in the West. I don't know. But like there's a team that I don't have on my list. I don't know if any of you guys have them on, but like the Kings, like they have not looked great.
Well.
You have them on your list? I didn't have them, but they're a team that you should watch, like because they've looked not great.
Yeah.
Like really not great. And they could start losing. They could keep losing games, and they could fall a little bit, and that would not be good for them.
But they could also turn around. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're another team that did nothing. Top of my list is the Mavs.
I have them on my list.
Yeah, you have Luka. You have Luka Doncic just putting up insane numbers.
Yeah,
35, 9, and 9 right now.
Yeah, just insanity. And
off career best efficiency also.
Yeah, he's shooting the ball
everywhere.
Fucking insane.
It's crazy.
Yeah. They're the 7th seed right now. But the moves they made getting
I need him to jump up.
I honestly think they can make a move. I think they can. I think they'll be better than
they won 6 in a row
in the second half of the season.
They've won 6 in a row since the trade deadline.
Yeah, it was PJ Washington and who else was in that deal? Oh, not in the deal, but in the trade deadline. Gafford. Great pickups to fit the team so well.
And Maxi Kleber has been getting healthy, and he's been looking good for them. And PJ Washington looks like a great fit, just like I said. I said that on the trade deadline episode. I think me and Ryan both said that it could be a great fit depending what version of him you were getting. And I was really hoping for that offensive upside. And the PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford in the front court minutes have looked amazing so far.
I think they can finish in the 5 seed, and they are currently what?
Yeah,
they're 4 games behind Denver right now, so it's like, I don't see that. But I honestly think
there's a good chance they're the 5 seed come playoff.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that they're one of the hottest teams in the league the second half of the season. They're a 5 seed, and they make a little conference finals push. Like,
I need them in the 5 seed. I need them knock out Denver first round. Oh, I need
a Luka Jokic first round matchup. It would be insane. Like, I really like the moves they made with their roster. So
if we're getting this version of the Nuggets that we've seen over the last couple weeks, give me the Mavs.
Might get real interesting.
You guys got any more, Ryan?
Yeah.
Another team.
I have a team.
Yeah, another team. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
I got the Lakers on here. It was right around that same spot as Golden State. A couple games ahead of them, a game and a half up on them right now in the standings. I think if you're looking at this team here and you're looking at LeBron with a player option next season, your assets are starting to dwindle. The roster you tried to assemble this roster that a lot of people were really high on, including me. And it just has not worked out. There's so much. I don't know what is going on, whether it's a coaching thing, it's a players thing. I think it's a mix of both, but they just not look great. And I think if there is a chance that if we're looking at this team coming down this last stretch of games, if they start losing a lot of games, they could drop in the standings a little bit, behind. If they fall to the 10th seed or even worse, they go on a losing streak, they go down to 11. I mean, you're looking at a really, really rough offseason for the Lakers. Really rough offseason.
And they're a team that's kind of like built to be like a defensive powerhouse, and then like not. Get on the run. They're not supposed to be a half-court offense, and they're the 15th overall defense this year. Like,
might I add, good. That's the 15th best defense this season. When you have Anthony Davis almost completely healthy, like usually when the Lakers have a mid defense, it's because AD played 45 games.
And usually, I don't remember them being fifth. They've still been top 10 the last few years, haven't they?
And they've never.
Yeah, I think they were the best defense in the NBA last season post trade deadline.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan, didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, it's just I don't think they've ever fallen this low, and that's with Anthony Davis playing the majority of the season. It's just it's a problematic team. It just is, and they got hot around the trade deadline with D'Angelo Russell just playing super great, but we all know that's not going to last come April. Like, I just think this team is super. I think this team is vulnerable. We can all feel it. I don't think this team has a second round run in them, or let alone conference finals run in them like they did last year. I just don't think this team is as good as the Lakers team last year.
What do you think? I pulled this up. I know you said they're about 15th on the season. What do you think they are over the last 2 months in defensive ranking?
I haven't watched much Laker games, but
last 2 months,
18.
Close. They're 19. They're below teams that have been getting a lot of scrutiny for their defense. Milwaukee's higher than them. The Nuggets are higher than them. The Mavericks are a full 1.5 points higher than them. Even a team that's the Grizzlies are the 7th ranked defense over the last 2 months, which I believe.
Yeah,
they're barely better than the Wizards. They're 0.1 points higher than the Wizards in defensive rating. Rough for them.
But I do think a big part of it is on coaching, especially their defense, because they don't run enough zone on defense. I'm being honest. Like, they are a very good zone team, and the stats kind of back it up. Like, they don't have a bunch of point of attack defenders at this point, especially Vando's hurt. Like D'Lo, Austin Reeves,
Dinwiddie is just not a
Dinwiddie. There just don't have any defensive guards, and it's like, why are you
that Dinwiddie?
You can't just rely on Anthony Davis to protect everything after the, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, he's a great paint protector, but at some point, he's gonna be late in the rotation, or he's gonna they're gonna split the drop. It's just gonna happen. It's just dumb. I don't know what they're doing. And then if you look at their stats, a lot of their players are very efficient defensively in the zone, but they're only running it like 8% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
They need to pick that up, I think. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Because I don't think there's really much you can change offensively. They don't have a diverse offensive skill set.
Yeah.
In terms of shooting.
Mm-hmm. What makes this team interesting to me is just that you can never ever count out LeBron James. Like that. I know he's in year 21 and he's going on 40, but we've seen that dude pull off some ridiculous stuff before. And I think if they're going to be in the plan, and whether they stay at 9 or they move up to 8 or 7, no team wants to play LeBron James and the Lakers in a 1-game elimination scenario, right? No team does, because again, that guy can pull off insane stuff. So
they have Anthony Davis, who can pull off almost just as much insane stuff.
Yeah. The upside is there. Which is why they're an interesting team. If they do get in the first round and they play the right team, like an OKC, where they can kind of beat up on OKC and OKC's small front court, That's interesting. There are other matchups in that first round potentially that are interesting. It's just like I'm sick of waiting for the Lakers to show us that they can be the team that they were earlier in the season. The play-in, like not the play-in tournament, the in-season tournament. We haven't seen that Lakers team since.
Yeah, they won that and they just fell off.
They fell off right away. So I'm still waiting to see if they can be that team. Because if they can, then they can really make some noise in the playoffs and they can go on a run. But the Lakers team, as we've seen in the last 2 months, really ever since that in-season tournament, I don't think is capable of going on that kind of run.
Yeah, I can't disagree too much. I think there's been a lot of waiting around as fans and seeing if they can get back to that level, and they just haven't. And that's fine. I mean, if that's just not the team that they're going to be this season, then that's not the team they're going to be. But it is disappointing for a team, like I said at the beginning when I brought them up. It's like this is a roster that a lot of people were high on, a lot of good role players that they were able to find, and really thought that they were going to really be able to take the step, and maybe Austin Reeves would take a step in his development. I think he's been at best the same player, if not worse than he was last season. I don't really think he's shown much growth there. I think you could probably fairly say he's about the same player as last year.
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing.
Also. No, it's not a bad thing. I mean, he was a undrafted free agent dude that
but you would expect, like, after getting paid and after Team USA, that you'd see a bigger leap, and we haven't seen that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say
development isn't always linear. So
true.
Like, it might be one of those things where, they had a decent playoff run. He goes to Team USA, but like doesn't have a lot of time to himself, to like, he might have learned a lot or whatever, but he can't apply that into his off season workouts because he didn't really have that big of an off season if you look at it compared to most players.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I would say for a team that's in this type of window and this type of timeline, you are looking for players that are going to have straight line development, especially as a guy who you're hoping to be your third option on offense. You're looking for a step. Ryan, you got another team? You can just keep going around the circle.
Yeah. Here. Next team I've got is Philly.
I also had them on I had like a 7-person list.
Yeah.
I also had them on there as well.
Yeah. Now Philly is another team that, they're kind of in murky waters right now. Obviously, Joel Embiid is hurt. We don't know when he's coming back, if he's even coming back at all, really. Like we just don't really know. I mean, the whole when his injury was first, announced over Twitter, like even then the details were hard to come by, and some sources were saying some things, some sources were saying some other things.
They're trying to cover up what
It's most likely worse than we have been told, or that it's more likely worse than what the Sixers in the league want us to think it is, right? So Embiid might not be back at all this season, and obviously he was the MVP before he got hurt, and the Sixers team is just not the same, even a tiny bit.
No,
without
aren't
Embiid.
They're like 3-7 in the last 10, I believe.
Correct.
I might be wrong.
I was about to say that, like, we're already seeing Embiid got hurt like early February, late January, and they're already 3-7 over the last 10. Right?
Yeah, they've dropped to the 5th seed.
Didn't we talk about that? About how they were way too dependent on Joel Embiid to be a serious option down the stretch of the season and in the playoffs, because you have no confidence in the other guys outside of Maxey to do anything.
Yeah. To be fair, like, if any team who loses the MVP,
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I just think that there's a lot of teams that could probably maybe tread water a little bit better.
Yeah.
Especially those contending teams,
Right. And so far it's looking like the Sixers are not going to be able to tread water very well.
No, they could drop. They could drop fast.
I mean, they're not that far ahead of the Miami Heat or Orlando Magic.
They're only 2 games.
2
games up on Indy, 2.5 games up on Miami. Same thing with Orlando.
there's still a lot of season left, right? Like there's
they could very easily.
room.
I mean, Maxey has already
easily-
missed some time.
Yeah,
Like
they
he could
easily
very
fall
easily.
down the standings and find themselves in 8th, which would that
You know
would
what
just
this kind of reminds me of?
what?
It kind of reminds me of that Clippers team 2 years ago where Kawhi got hurt in the middle of the season. They fell down the standings to the 7th seed or 8th seed, and then they lost both their playing games.
Yeah.
That this gives me some serious vibes there.
Yeah, it's tough what's happening because I really thought like if there was ever going to be a year where Philly gets out the second round, it was going to be this year.
Yeah,
it
they
really
had a really
was.
good thing going.
Just, and this isn't a slight toward Embiid, but like Embiid is probably never ever going to be playing any better than he was this season, right? So like this was probably their prime year to get it done, and now it's like they probably don't have that same shot this year, and do they have the same shot ever again? Because another
it's going to be hard to replicate that type of season that he was having.
With an injury.
Imagine someone doing that.
Yeah, it's just rough, and the Sixers are. I just feel bad. Like
I don't.
They've you definitely don't, but as a fan of a Western Conference team, like I do feel a little bit bad.
No, I feel bad for. I do feel bad. It's a really bad situation. But I think they put themselves in this. They put themselves in this position roster wise. By doing this stupid, we're gonna have everyone on expiring contracts except Embiid thing for whatever reason. I don't know what that whole point of that is.
To get DeRozan this offseason. They're bringing
in.
They should just trade for him at the deadline. He's better than Tobias. So I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see when he's the third option.
Yeah, they might be the same. Well, I mean, at least Tobias can shoot threes too, and DeMar can't do that.
Yeah, like is DeMar going to be able to like fit into that off role with Maxey and Embiid? Like, I don't think so.
No, not at all. They should have just traded. They should have just put in an offer for Zach. That's what they should have did. It would be cool though. It would be interesting though if like Philly did sort of a thing where it's like they just once the offseason comes, maybe they get active trading then once they have all that cap space freed up. Maybe they say, hey, let's bring in Levine once we have $80 million in cap space. The only person on our books is Joel. We have $70 million in cap. Let's trade for him. And then let's trade for, let's give Maxey his contract and we can get those 3 guys. And I don't know if that's really going to get you maybe you can bring back Buddy because you're going to have his right, he's going to be you're going to have his bird rights.
I do like the Buddy trade.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah,
I really like that.
That was great. I like that.
I said I was very convinced if Dame was not on the Bucks, he would have been a Buck probably. Probably assume that.
Yeah. Jeff, you got a team? You want me to go?
You can go. I have 3 left, and we probably will overlap.
I'll let you. I'm gonna go OKC. I have 2 more teams left, but I'll do OKC.
Okay. They weren't on my list, but
a lot of people immediately were very happy with the Gordon Hayward trade.
I was not.
I was not. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm very indifferent. I get the thought process, but it's
we kind of thought the same thing. It was unexpected that they didn't go for more front court depth and they went for like
they could have matched that Gafford deal. They should have just did the Gafford thing.
Yeah,
they should have gave the Gafford just done the Gafford thing or Yeah,
they should have went for they could have matched the PJ deal. And it's like I also like. There's no way There's no way. I don't know if this is a weird way to think, but why didn't they shop Giddey?
I don't know.
There's no way Giddey didn't have more value than Trey Mann. Like I think they could have shopped Giddey and like got someone better than Gordon Hayward.
Here's the thing: who's taking him?
Utah.
Give me Keontae George is their guard.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. The Utah has faith as a primary playmaker. They might view him as a secondary guy. Put him next to Josh Giddey, be a secondary.
Would you rather bring in Giddey at the trade deadline and take the ball out of Keontae's hands in his rookie year development, or would you rather just
Yeah.
let Keontae develop?
I mean, that's true. My thing is, I don't know. I just don't like the fit. Like, the fit on paper is fine. I just don't think Gordon Hayward's like the type of player to rely on when you want to make a playoff push.
Yeah,
injury prone.
They need a front court. They need a front court size. I don't know.
Yeah. It was weird. It was very weird.
Gordon, at this point in his career, Gordon Hayward is best as a shooter and playmaker, and that they already have plenty of that on that team.
Are you taking the ball out of J-Dub's hands?
No.
Or
absolutely
or
not.
off the bench, when Cason Wallace comes in, he's shown a lot of juice as a shooter. And he's had some flashes of playmaking as well. So it's like, do you want to take him out of Cason Wallace's hands? Probably not. Like,
no.
It does allow them a little bit of more, like, when they do close game. I think this is mostly for a close games type of thing. Like, when they close games, they could, if Gordon Hayward is healthy, they can run the lineup with Shea, Lou Dort, Gordon Hayward, Jalen Williams, and Chet, and but they could also already kind of do that with another guy. But I guess it becomes a proven, more established guy to be out there instead of a, Cason Wallace is a rookie and stuff. So
I just think there were better options for them to target, and players like they should have moved off of Giddey for both on-court issues and off-court issues. And I'm not like I'm very like I've been very critical on this podcast about people trading low on assets. But I think this is a case where I would have been comfortable trading Josh Giddey if it meant getting like a PJ Washington or something like that. Yeah. And he even has like that lottery tax value. Like, you know what I mean? Like the lottery value, like attached to his name. So you could even like, I'm sure there'd be teams that would be willing to get creative for like a third. You could get creative with a third team with someone like Giddey. And I also just think man fits the style of play OKC wants to play better. If you know what I mean. Like, I don't see how Giddey fits in the offense, even like, just, I don't know. With that at all.
It's tough because Jeff and I were talking about this last pod about Giddey and the Thunder, and teams have started guarding the Thunder by putting their big, like a Gobert, Zubac, Anthony Davis, whoever. They put their rim protecting 5 on Giddey and just dare Giddey to shoot. You just let Giddey get 8-9 open threes, and you just let him shoot them out of the game because he will shoot them out of the game. And that way you can clog up the paint where J-Dub and Shea and Chet like to score. And it works, Minnesota in one of the most impressive wins of their season just put Gobert on Giddey and Towns on Dort and said, we are going to dare you to shoot the basketball. And, if they go in, then you won. And if they don't, you're probably going to lose. And that's exactly what happened. Those two kind of shot them out of the game. And, I also would have liked to see them just being objective. Like, it's better for me as a Wolves fan that the Thunder did not get better because they're already good. But I would have liked to see them go after a Chris Boucher, Xavier Tillman, Kelly Olynyk, a guy like that, just a backup big who is serviceable at the very least and can add some depth to that front court. And they didn't do that. It was weird.
Yeah. I just think they've fallen in love with this really like out of positional, like skilled offense, which like J-Dub can't play the 4, but I think you put him at the 3 in the lineups, he will be better. So it's like, why even like you want to be able to close with him at the 4 at some point, at some times, but that shouldn't be your goal, in my opinion, to close with J-Dub at the 4 every single game. And that's kind of like what they've set themselves up to do.
Yeah.
And like with Giddey, again, if you move off of Giddey, I think I would much rather like have a lineup like, I don't know. I don't get it. Like
a bigger team is going to punish
everything.
A bigger team is going to punish them. Like hypothetically, I think right now technically like, depending how it all flows out, like if the Timberwolves and Thunder match up in the playoffs, they're running a 2 big lineup, and you have 2 7-footers on a 6'8" guy and a 7-foot guy who is like 180 pounds.
It's tough, and other teams too are big. Like Sabonis is huge. Like that's not a guy that OKC is. They don't have the back line to deal with him. On other teams, Zubac is huge. Kawhi Leonard is also huge, and they just don't have
Nuggets have 3 6'10" guys.
They have Jokic. Aaron Gordon is a tank. Michael Porter Jr. is nearly 7 foot. Like the
you
Thunder
brought the Lakers earlier too.
Or the Lakers, the Thunder are just the smallest team in the West right now.
Yeah, and Giddey should theoretically like provide size because he's like a large guard, but he doesn't provide really much that comes with the size. Like the defensive value brings is almost nothing. So it's like, honestly, I would value if I wanted to go small, I would much rather have a lineup of Man at the 1, Shea, Dort, Dub, than Chet, than just have a Giddey in there with them instead of Man. Like I don't get it. It's just like he doesn't provide anything that he theoretically should.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I know I just said development isn't linear, but I think the off the court issues and the fact
part of it,
like you have other off talent, like talent his age, like I don't get it. Move away.
This is year 3.
3. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if year 3 we're not seeing any strides with the jump shot, I think it's fair to say it's probably not coming.
Yeah, I forgot who said it like this, but it sometimes feels like the Thunder only use him as like a special teams player when you've got a sideline out of bounds or baseline out of bounds. Then you bring Giddey in for those kind of plays, but he's such an offensive liability, especially because the driving has just not come around. You know, second year he was driving, he was getting in the paint a lot. He wasn't converting on a lot of those drives or getting to the line enough, but that was something that you would hope would develop. You know, he'd be a better driver. He'd use that size and that footwork, but it just hasn't happened. And then also combine that with a bad jump shot. It's tough to get away with playing him out there.
Yeah, and also it's part of the reason is I think when they drafted Josh Giddey, they drafted him before Shea took this step into as a superstar player. And it was kind of and J-Dub, you know, and it's kind of like, well, hey, we have this really good, you know, we have this good young scoring guard that primarily before Shea moved to the point guard, he was a shooting guard. We saw him play alongside Chris Paul, who is a ball handler who likes to run a lot of pick and roll and is more of a passer than a scorer. We take this guy who's got some passing chops and he's big and he's versatile, you know.
Likes to work the pick and roll.
But then all of a sudden you have, okay, this guy is now a 30-point per game scoring point guard. We have a 20-point per game scoring forward, and we have a, 16-point per game scoring center who can all stretch the floor, all can handle the ball. Like you have 2 guys who can handle the ball who are better than him. Mm-hmm. You have multiple guys coming off the bench that are better. Like Lu Dort's a better shooter than him. Like all these guys that you're bringing in are better shooters.
Joe, Kendrick Williams.
Yep.
Jason Wallace.
They've got real shooters that play much better.
Aaron Wiggins is actually is okay on defense.
Yeah, and they're also just like clogging the versatility of some of these guys. Like J-Dub needs to play more at the 3. You know what I mean? He just does, and I hope that he can. But also Chet has to play more at the 5. Then when he's really a 4, he can play the 4 too, in my opinion. And it's like if you were to trade for a better big, that's more of a paint presence, or like just another big in general, you could play Chet at 4 and you can capitalize on versatility and run big lineups. But like right now, looking at the roster, what is a good big lineup? Like we said, they don't have one. Mm-hmm. It's like they went for roster versatility, but they went one way. It's like very, very weird.
Yeah, and you know what the best part is? They have 17 first-round picks to keep fixing the roster and hold on.
They'll get a center. They'll get a center.
Dude, whenever I was doing mock trades around deadline season, I was like, maybe because I thought they would be looking for a power forward or a center, backup center. I was like, oh, maybe they would want to if you do a 3-team trade where the Bucks were moving Bobby Portis, maybe they want to give up a first for him. Their fans are like, man, no way we're giving up a first for Bobby Portis. It's like, dude, you have 17 first-round picks in the next 4 years, dude. Like, you're not using them. You're not using them all. Like, it's just unrealistic to think that that's going to like take place like at all.
I think they're just trying to wait out the Lauri Markkanen market is what I would be doing if I were them. In my opinion, I think he's a perfect he's a perfect guy for their.
Well, it would be a lot better if they would stop hitting on role players in the draft, because then they would actually throw those picks around to pick up guys at the deadline. But look at the guys who got moved around the deadline. Other than like Gafford, if they could use like a center, like, are they really going to be throwing picks for like Dorian Finney-Smith? No. They already have versatile defensive wings off the bench. Like a shooter, they already have Isaiah Joe, who they got for free from Philly.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know.
Oh, Gordon Hayward's a free agent this summer.
Yeah, I think that was another reason. He gets a lot of cap off the books.
Yeah, I was going to say, Gordon Hayward returned to Utah. Giddy, Hayward, hella picks.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple extra pieces, bring Lauri to town. That also could.
Lauri's contract's only like $17 million, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Gordon Hayward's a free agent, re-sign him, trade.
Yeah. I have two more teams that I would think that I put on or three more actually that are actually I think we're talking about. And I know that Ryan wants to talk about one of them, so I'll just bring them up. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I didn't bring up the Bucks. So I'll just wait for you to.
I know Ryan wants. I know Ryan either has them on a list or he's waiting for one of us to say it.
They're on my list.
They are probably the number one really good team that is most dependent on what happens over the next month and a half or 2 months. Probably. Yeah. The coaching change, the roster issues, the Dame struggles and all of that stuff and injuries, and I just don't think that there's no other contending team that's at this level of like question mark heading into the last 2 months of the season.
Dysfunction. Yeah. I did a whole deep dive on Damian Lillard's season, so like I've done a lot of.
I gave you some Bucks Twitter boost on that.
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit, but the main thing is, what the hell were they doing with that coaching search? Just
finding someone that the players care to listen to. I think that's what it came down to. I think they're looking for someone that the players respected as a coach and as a leader, and I just think that's what they needed. And I think Doc Rivers I think players do respect Doc Rivers as a coach and as a leader.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Everything I've heard from any players that has played for him outside of there's some that don't trust him, but there's a lot of players that say that playing for Doc is you were in like he leads well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But Ryan, you seem like you got a lot to say, so I'll let you go.
Yeah. I'm just going to call it how I see it. I don't think this team is a serious championship contender. I just don't. You know, I understand they have Giannis and Dame, and when it really, really comes down to it in the nitty-gritty, like they're going to have the best two players in most series that they would probably end up playing in whatever round, right? That speaks for a lot. This is a team who's, you know, at the very core, they've won a championship, even though it's really just like Giannis, Chris, Brooke, Bobby, Pat. They're just not a serious team, in my opinion. Like, they haven't been playing championship level basketball really the entire season, and especially under Doc Rivers, it hasn't really gotten off to a good start. And I understand, like, there is a period of adjusting. Like, for example, they're focusing less on offensive rebounding, and they're focusing more on getting back in transition and trying to plug some of those holes on defense. And because of that, their defense has looked better, but their offense therefore has kind of fallen off in the time.
Whole team is going through a really bad shooting slump at the same time. It's
that's
really bad.
Yeah.
Dame has not looked like himself, and Matthias, you know how it's going. It's not quite the same, and their defense, like, it really is a problem, especially if Brook Lopez is going to look how he's looking. It's just tough, and I don't think this team is serious. And I'm looking in the East right now, and if you want to compare them to the other teams kind of in their range, obviously Boston is a better team. I would say the Knicks, when healthy, are a better team right now than the Bucks. The Cavs, I think you can make a good argument for that. The Miami Heat, I understand they've won a lot less games, but after what happened last season, like, I don't think the Bucks have the Bucks are not entitled to being
better. The one thing I will say about the Miami Heat is that the blitz, Dame's just gonna force him to draw two, and then especially with Miami Heat that likes to bring Bam up, the 4-on-3 with Giannis at the short roll is gonna be open a lot, and I'm like, part of me is. That's such an easy bucket.
The Heat beat the Bucks last season. One, Jimmy went nuclear. We all know that. Second reason, they said, Drew Holiday, go beat us on offense, and he couldn't. They will not.
You can't do that with Dame. You can't do that with Dame or Chris. I don't even
with
care.
Dame's issues.
I don't care with Chris's injuries or Dame's issues. Yes, Jeff, I agree. You cannot be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna let Chris Middleton beat me, because he will. He's shown that he will. Even when you don't want him to beat you.
That's
when
true.
You're trying to actively stop him.
Dame does add multiple folds that the Bucks didn't have last year. But the pushback I'd give it to that is that the Miami Heat they win the coaching matchup by a lot.
I'll push back on that because they win every coaching matchup by a lot.
Yes. That always gives them the up over a lot of other teams. I also think the Heat have gotten better. Adding Jaime Jaquez in the draft was just a home run pick. Terry Rozier had a bad start. He's coming around. The Heat have.
He's hurt.
He is hurt. He'll be back for the playoffs, though.
He's week to week. And also Josh Richardson also has a dislocated shoulder.
Yeah.
They did add DeLon Wright.
They got DeLon
Wright I like, which is.
Yeah.
I know.
The one thing
I know why you waited so long for your bio, buddy. You wanted to go to Miami. You didn't want to have to deal with anyone. I hate that shit. Pisses me off.
Yep. No, but the one thing I will say about the Bucks, Dame on paper adds a bunch of folds. They haven't uncovered any of them. They're still on page one. They're still on page one of the 10 pages, you know what I mean? So it's
the start of that book is Dame hitting his jumpers. That's where the start of that book is.
I mean, it is, but but also it's they've used him I've watched a lot of film. I'll just say they need to use him more on off-ball actions. They've used him as a spot up, which is fine, but it's they've done this thing where it's it's very Giannis or Dame.
Yeah.
And it's other than the fourth quarter, then it's just all right, let's just start running Giannis and Dame pick and rolls. And it's well, why don't we maybe have a Giannis action with Dame on the other side, and then if Giannis doesn't get anything, by the time he's done looking, he can take 2 dribbles and do a little DHO with Dame. And it's then you get both involved and you allow a Giannis ISO, and it's it's magic. Mm-hmm. But they don't do any opposite side actions ever.
I know why. Bobby Portis post ups. That's why.
And Brook Lopez gravity. He's Brook Lopez will not swing the ball.
No, he does not swing that rock. Bobby Portis gets the ball in the mid range so goddamn much. Pound, 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 pound. Fader. Every time. It's horrible. And when Doc first got here, he wasn't doing that. And the last 4 or 5 games, he started doing it again. I don't know what conversation, dude, I don't know what needs to be said to this team, but like, dude, just set a pick and roll to the goddamn basket, dude. Like,
They don't.
I'm
It's
sick
so
of
weird.
watching Bobby Portis dribble around in the mid-range and shoot this fadeaway goddamn mid-range. It's inefficient as hell. He's not that good of a mid-range shooter to be doing that.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's very like 1-2 pass shot for the Bucks. Like dribble, 1-2 pass, or like one pass, dribble, post up shot. And it's like the ball never comes back to like where the play originates from. And when you have someone when you have two players to draw two, ball movement is very, very important. So Dame's bringing out two. Giannis is bringing out two. It should be like ingrained into them. The movement is how you capitalize on this. But it's just like, oh, I got a swing pass. This guy, I'm just gonna chuck it while this guy's like doing a long closeout. But it's like, yeah, that's an okay shot. But you swing it one more time to the corner, Brooke. Or instead of like getting like a mismatch, Bobby, like you swing it outside to the top of the key that's been open for 3 seconds because they're doubling and rotating. It's an easier shot, and it's like none of that's happening. It's like I don't get it. It's the chemistry is not there, which I will say that is another thing Miami has over them is that they run like a smooth engine.
Mm-hmm.
Their chemistry is there, and it's like I don't know how they figure it out with this group right now.
I think the last I'll say the record has now looked great under Doc. I'll admit that obviously I think it's 3-7 or 2-8 or something like that. But this week will be the first time he's had practice in the facility since he's taken over.
That'll be big. Yeah.
I'm hoping that more stuff can get implemented here, and I think what you see over the next 10 to 15 games will probably be more of an indictment of what they'll look like for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Also, I think there's a lot of people on Twitter and stuff talking about Chris and how they should have moved him and he takes away from. Watch this offense without him. Please watch this offense without him. It is so much worse.
They need Chris.
That is another layer they never did. Is that like
Chris is no one will ever convince me that Chris Middleton is a bad player. I know that he is declining from what he once was. I understand that he's had injuries. He's older. I understand that, but
he's still a great player,
dude. He's like the most efficient mid-range jump shooter, volume jump shot shooter, mid-range jump shot shooter in the entire league. He's very efficient from three. He does have some turnovers at some points where they're like, what the hell are you doing? But he play makes well within the offense. I mean, he's on a team with Giannis, Dame, and he still was averaging 6 or 7 assists for some of the stretches of games there. I mean, him and Giannis's connection is just, you talk about chemistry. It's almost like they just mirror each other and what they know that they're going to do.
And that's another thing that I don't think was capitalized on. Obviously, Doc doesn't have a chance to capitalize on it right now, but it felt like you have 2 3-level scorers in Dame and Chris, and then you have Giannis, who's just like a downhill playmaker. He can do anything once he gets the ball, especially with numbers.
You see those mid-range pull-up numbers, baby?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And it's like I feel like there's so much data and there's so much like common like knowledge that Dame is super versatile in horn sets, and that Chris and like I don't know, it's just like why didn't they run more Chris, Dame, Giannis like horn sets, movement sets, off ball sets with up three? Because it's like a good example is look at the Nuggets. You know what I mean? They'll run just like a 3-man action with Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Jokic. And like the threat of both of them cutting or both of them popping is exactly the same threat that Chris Middleton and Damian Lillard provide. And Chris Middleton and Dame might provide more of a threat. And Giannis is a good enough ball handler and playmaker to operate a DHO and operate out of split actions, but you don't see it run ever. And even someone like Pat Connaughton, he's a 3-point guy who has a 40-inch vertical. You know, he shows it off every contest, But it's like, hey, maybe if you decoy his pop, maybe you decoy him in a split action and he can cut and he has a wide open lane, that's a free dunk. It's 40 inches.
They have ran a couple of
bucket.
actions. They had this one play in one of their games. It was to end the quarter, and they ran a Dame. Bobby set a screen, and he had like this short kind of roll to the elbow. They threw it to Bobby, and then Dame came off as like a movement shooter, but then they threw it to a backdoor to Pat, and he hit a layup to end the quarter. And it was a really nice, well-designed play. And I really liked that because when this team's limitations do show themselves, I think like we were saying, the ball movement and just swinging and finding good shots is the way that obviously, and you can say it for any team, but for a team that's having offensive struggles, just finding the ball into open floor is very good. And I think Chris has been dealing with an ankle sprain. From what I've read from beat reporters and stuff, they're just like, hey, All-Star's coming up in like a week. Like, let's not bring him back and just let him have like 17 days off of just rest. And like people talk about Chris's injuries, and it's like, yeah, like he hasn't injury problems in the last 2 years. I mean, last season, his injuries were mostly because he rushed back because he wanted to help the team win a championship. And in the playoffs, he was giving you 25-5 pretty much in the playoffs.
Yeah, he still performed.
Yeah, and like this season, it's like he hasn't had any injuries other than this one, and it was a freak accident. I mean, KD literally just went underneath him on a shot, and he landed on him on his foot. It's like, you can't really do much about like any player other than like the superhuman freaks like Giannis and LeBron that literally nothing ever hurts their ankles ever. Like any player would be out for games with that. That would any player. It's just it's hard to say. But yeah, I mean, I just think
they're just a team that
if here's what it comes down to.
They need more structure.
That and I think that's what they're trying to implement. And I'll say this, what Ryan said about them having the best and possibly the second best player in every series they play. I think if Giannis and Dame play like Giannis and Dame should play, and you get okay production from the role players, and that's just, knocking down threes at an okay rate, and you get serviceable. I think if they're a league average defense ish, and Giannis and Dame are playing how they are, I think that is going to be a very hard team to beat. Because if Giannis is giving you 30 to 40 points a game and just absolutely wrecking stuff on both sides, and Dame is giving you 25 to 30 a game and 6 assists, and he's shooting well from 3, it's very hard to stop that offense. And I think as long as they are serviceable defense, similar to how the Nuggets, when the Nuggets really picked it up last year in the playoffs, it was Jamal Murray and Jokic are on one, and we have a serviceable enough defense. You can't keep up with us. And if they could get that recipe going, I don't think they're as good as the Nuggets were last year. Not saying that. But what I will say is I think if you can get to that sort of serviceability and you have that type of level of play, I think that is the recipe for them to win.
Yeah, I do agree with Ryan, though. They're not I don't think they're a championship team. I would put them in my pretender list right now. They were a team, like Dame trade kind of happened late. Like, it happened right as camp was starting or in the middle of camp. I can't really, like right before.
Like the week before camp.
Yeah. So it's like, you don't really get to off-season workouts. You don't really get to planning. So there was already a lack of structure, and the new coach and Terry Stotts, like kind of like the offensive guy.
Yeah.
There's immediate lack of structure. So my guess is that the offense that they were running with Terry Stotts in the beginning of camp was different than the offense they were running with Adrian Griffin by the end of camp. So then you already struggle with that lack of structure. Then you're already having an offensive, like another coach overhaul. So then you're probably looking at a whole new defensive and offensive scheme. And it's like they're already a team that like obviously lacks chemistry. And in my opinion, like a team that lacks chemistry, you have to run more plays for them, obviously.
Yeah.
You got to like get them like, hey, this is how you play with this guy, and that's how you play with that guy. And now they've basically had 2 offensive overhauls, I'm very worried about how they're going to gel come playoff time. Like, I think they'll still be a top 3 seed. Like, they'll be dangerous, obviously, but like come conference finals or a game 7, I like as of now I'd bet against them.
I think it's just very easy, and obviously I will admit I'm biased. I there's no way I can't be in this. I try to be unbiased, but I'm always going to say that, like, especially when I have Giannis on my team, like I'm just going to be blunt with that. I think it is very easy to say right now, though, that when you're looking at the Eastern Conference, I think when you look at how good Boston is, I think it is easy to say that everyone below them is a pretender because of how good they are. But I will say this, when you really look at it, it's like the Cavs are on a really good streak right now, obviously, but like they have had playoff woes. When you look at the Knicks, they are on a streak. They're actually faltering off of their streak because they've had so many injuries. And then on top of that, they were on a crazy, crazy shooting run from their role players. That slowed down. They aren't winning games.
Yeah. I will say there is a lot, like, even in the East and West, like, I don't think there's really a clear favorite other than Boston. And I don't think it's like last year with Denver, where they are like the clear favorite. I think Boston can be upset.
And I
Boston
think there's been a lot of I agree. And I think there's also been a lot of revisionist history last year too with Denver. I think a lot of people we didn't do the podcast at that time, but I don't know how your personal view was, but I felt like a lot of the people that I talked to, I mean, even Shad, who was a Nuggets fan, he was saying like there's a good chance we lose in the second round if we play the Suns.
I didn't feel that way at all. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just saying
Denver won, like, I thought Denver was clear and loud and clear, and the number one thing for me was they didn't have a shooting slump.
Yeah,
they didn't have a shooting slump.
Boston's got the same.
Season.
Boston's got the same question.
Yeah, marks. But I will say, Boston's shooting is built a lot different than Denver's. Yeah. Denver's was predicated on a lot of like the way they run their offenses are really different. So it's like I will say we'll see how that works. But
and
when a team's that consistent from the most important part of the game, yeah, exactly. But when a team's that consistent with the most important part of offense, it's like it's really hard to bet against them.
I agree. Do we have a last team that we want to talk about, or are we all wrapped up?
I've got one more team that we could talk about if we're feeling up for another team.
Yeah, let's do one more.
I've got the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yep. I like that.
I don't know what this team is. They're so confusing because sometimes you watch them and you're like, yeah, I don't really get what's going on here. Zion looks slow and washed. Ingram, why aren't you taking more threes? McCollum and Herb and Valanciunas aren't doing their thing. And sometimes I watch the Pelicans and I'm like, yeah, I just don't get it. And then sometimes against the right matchup for them, I look at the Pelicans and I'm like, okay, I see the vision. I think this team could end up in the conference finals if things go the right way. It's just I don't know how to gauge. Yeah. I don't know how to gauge this team, really at all. Like, where do you guys stand with the Pelicans?
The way I look at this team is that they have overall, like, overarching, some of the most talent on their roster for a Western Conference team. But it's all like, I don't want to say dysfunctional because they're not a dysfunctional team, but it's a bunch of squares trying to fit into a circle hole of a puzzle, you know, like the little kids puzzles. Like, that's just how I feel, like, looking at their roster, and maybe it's the way like their play calling and the schemes they're using, but I don't necessarily think that Valanciunas and like the overarching role players on that team and the way they use them is beneficial to like their stars. Like, I don't think they're complementing BI and Zion enough.
I think it really comes down to, I just don't think Willie Green is a very good coach.
That's part of it too.
I was trying to be nice.
He is a very defense-oriented coach, which is not a bad thing. I think there's a little bit too much emphasis put on whether a coach is offensively oriented or defensively oriented, but he is very hyper-fixated on defense-first lineups, which is fine. But a lot of the time that sacrifices really good spacing for that defense. Saw it a lot with the Dyson Daniels lineup, which Dyson Daniels has been very good this season. I'm not trying to say that. I want to preface this with all the guys in the Pelicans. I think most guys in the Pelicans have had good seasons.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you're lining up there and it's like Herb Jones has taken steps as a shooter. But it's like, Herb Jones is one of the best defenders in the league, but so we need him out there. But then it's like, he has a shot, but the teams 100% trust him. Like people will sag off of him. They're not tightly guarding him. And then it's like, well, you have Brandon Ingram and you have Zion, and both of those players need the ball in their hands. And Zion's in his best when he's in his point forward role, and Brandon Ingram is in his best when he's in a point forward role. And there's not enough shooters on the court when those guys are out there, and it's just like and I think Matthias had a good point. It's the square peg in a circle hole type of stuff with the lineups and then the rotations and just the roster construction. And I just don't think it fits well when you don't have players that play off of each other well enough, in my opinion. And when I say that, it's more like BI and Zion are very good players. They're both very good players. I will say that. But it's like BI and Zion don't play well together. They had the worst net rating of any of the playoff teams when their two stars are on the court.
And that's spacing a lot of it too, because
Zion wants to catch the ball and move and work in the mid range to get to the rim, and BI wants to have the ball and operate in the mid range to get a jump shot. So that space is being taken up by two players.
And you have CJ. And Valanciunas.
CJ's been shooting well from three.
Well, he's always been
for sure. But like still, you're complimenting them with a guy like CJ McCollum, who his preferred spot to cook is still the mid range. You've got Herb Jones, like what you said, Jeff. Teams are going to dare him to shoot, and if he can make them, then that's great. But we've seen that he doesn't always, and that really kills that spacing. And then Valanciunas is a guy who, has been labeled as a stretch big at times, but he's not shooting threes. Like he's not helping your spacing.
No, he's not helping your spacing. He still likes to navigate as a pick and roll guy. Like, I mean, he's a good center. I just don't like the fit with them. And I also think like there's a perfect player on their bench who's a rookie that would fix all of these issues. Jordan Hawkins,
And Hawkins has been playing more because of the injuries.
Yeah. But he better play more as well when they get healthy because he just fits better. Like you don't need a bunch of like Dyson Daniels and Herb Jones have been good, but it's like don't play both of them at the same time. And I don't know how many times they've played both of them at the same time, but it's like they've got a good amount of minutes, both forwards, and it's maybe try to pair more shooting with your guys that like to work in the paint and work in the mid range. That's just my opinion. And I also think the whole gravity of their offense changes though with Trey Murphy if he's healthy. That's one thing I will say. He adds a versatile like shooter aspect to it that I don't think Jordan Hawkins can, fill the shoes of. But
not yet. Yeah.
He kind of has the same prototype where catch and shoot threat and then can kind of create off of closeouts. And I think when they get everybody healthy, including Trey Murphy, they need to capitalize on that player type next to Zion and BI a lot more because they have that defensive player type already. And I don't know. I don't think it's fitting them too well.
Yeah. I think a lot of what the Pelicans could do come playoff time because they're going to be in the playoffs. This isn't going to be last year where they fall in the play-in and get out. Like they're going to be in the playoff. They're going to be in the playoffs. And I really do think that there are some matchups that they could really take advantage of. And there are some matchups.
The Clippers.
Yeah.
They give the Clippers a lot of problems.
They give Minnesota a lot of problems too.
Big guys that can move are problematic.
Yeah. Yep. So it's just it's matchup dependent, but I hope that in this last push that we can see the Pelicans kind of up the notch a little bit just on defense, on offense, look more like a team that in the playoffs that you could make some noise. You know, that starts with Zion. That starts with that, you know, Brandon Ingram too. Ingram, I think, needs to take more threes. Like, I get that the mid-range is his shot, but from what I've seen, and I don't watch the Pelicans that closely, but from what I've seen, I love the version of that team where Brandon Ingram is aggressive, looking for his three-point shot. The version of the Pelicans where he's passing up open three-pointers or even semi-open three-pointers to try to get in the, you know, that middle area for that mid-range shot that he loves, which it's a good shot, but you got to take more threes. He's a great passer, but take more threes. Take more threes.
Yeah. No, I agree.
They've been running more point Zion lately too, and that's really helped them, and they've been playing well over the last 10 games. The Pelicans have, in a large part because of that. But I just got to see it, and the reason that they're on this list for me of 5 intriguing teams is because I think we can all visualize what this team could look like if they really hit their upside.
And I think
that's a scary team.
There's like I don't know. I feel like there's a lack of consistent urgency with the team. And like you said it, when it's like, show that you're a contender and that you can be dangerous in the playoffs. Like, a lot of times the reason we label people as contenders is because they go a month, 2 months of just consistent dominance and just urgency. And that's just not something you see from the Pelicans. It's like week by week. And like, it's just something that they're a contending team in a way of, I mean, not contending, they're a competing team. You know, they compete every night. They're going to be a playoff team, and like they could give any team a run for their money, but they haven't shown anything for a long enough period of time to say, oh, this team's going to be more than a second round playoff team, in my opinion.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. And I think there's a good chance, I don't know if they'll do it, but I think there's a good chance there's some talks about splitting those 2 guys up in the offseason.
Yeah.
I know Blake wants those dudes gone off his team. Like, bad. Like, he does not want BI anymore. Which I think is interesting because there's like a complete split there in the fan base, whether it's move BI or move Zion. Which, in my opinion, it's move BI. I think Zion's the harder player to find.
It just depends. It depends
on
how. You've got to hope that Zion can get back to what he was maybe a couple of years ago at a more consistent level, and that's when you feel more confident in moving forward and continuing to rebuild with him. Because, you know, if you look at Zion's production this season and kind of you watch him and you really do see the toll that the injuries have taken on his burst, on that second jump that made him so elite in college and coming out of the draft. You know, I still think that if the team is right, if the team is built around him right, and if Zion is playing how we know Zion can play, like, he is capable of being the number 1 on a championship team. But he is I don't want to say he's running out of time because he's only in year 5 and he's still so young, but we haven't really seen. We haven't seen it.
I would say he's running out of time to prove that he could be a 1 option.
Yeah.
I still think he can be a 1A or like a 1A, 1B or like a 2 option. I still think he can be 1 option actually on a contending team. But it's like, if by 27, 26, like he hasn't even made like a run or really had like an MVP caliber season.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of like, you either have to show it in the playoffs or show it like, hey, I can dominate in the regular season and I got injured, or like, we just fell short of a conference finals run or something like that. Like, it happens.
Yeah.
But he hasn't shown any of that. And it's at some point it's like, okay, maybe Zion has to be our 2.
Yeah, maybe
like,
which is, it's tough, especially because
I sure as hell isn't a 1. So it's like,
and I don't think he's a 1 really either, and it's tough to come to terms with that if you're the Pelicans, because you draft this guy thinking that he is going to be an MVP level player one day, generational prospects. That's what he was coming out of Duke, and he hasn't done that. And I think the Pelicans might have to look to kind of shake things up a little bit before they, before they're too pot committed to this core of BI, CJ, Zion that just
agreed. I think they do a retool and then maybe look in the mirror and see if they need to have somebody else as the one option after a retool.
Yeah, it was interesting this summer how there was some reporting about the Pelicans kind of shopping him around for maybe Charlotte's pick in the draft. That was super interesting to me because I didn't think the Pelicans were ready to go there. But if they flame out in the first round and they don't hit that ceiling that we think they can hit, maybe the Zion trade rumor is starting to become a little bit more real.
Yeah, less of a feel out, more of an actual offer.
Yeah. But that's all I have about Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean that's all I got.
Yeah, weird. They're a weird team. Well, I think that about wraps it up for us today. Appreciate anyone who's made it this far into the video. If you do have made it here, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. We'll be back when we are back. We're a little bit inconsistent with the schedule, but that's how it goes when we're all on different college schedules and living in different time zones and stuff like that. So we try our best, but appreciate anyone is. Check out all the links in the description below. Check us out on socials, all that good stuff. Appreciate it and have a good one. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.